It's Miss Berlin's Flipped Classroom Lesson 12, Estimating Sums and Differences of Fractions. Erica and her dad went for a 2-hour hike. The first hour, they walked 3/8 of a mile. The second hour, they walked 4/5 of a mile. About how many miles did they walk in all? The first thing we have to do, as usual, is pull out our numbers. So, here we go. And that was easy. 2 is the number of hours they hiked. 3/8 is a fraction of a mile they walked in the first hour. And 4/5 is the fraction of the mile they walked in the second hour. Now we need to go back and look at our question. Our question says, about how many miles did they walk? This word about tells us that we're going to be estimating. Estimating, as you remember, is like rounding. But with whole numbers, we round to 0. With fractions, we round to benchmark numbers. Benchmark numbers are numbers that are very common and easy to remember. The benchmarks for fractions, to round them or to estimate them, are 0, 1/2, and 1 whole. Let's look at our numbers again and the question. The number 2 is the number of hours they hiked. 3/8 a fraction of a mile, and 4/5 is a fraction of a mile. Looking at this question again, we see the word about. How many miles did they walk? About tells us to estimate or round. How many miles did they walk tells us to add. So we're going to look at our numbers. 2 is the number of hours they hiked. This is more of a reference number, so we're not going to use that to find our answer. These two, however, we will have to add together. So we're going to add 3/8 and 4/5, aren't we? Oh, no, we're not, because it says about. So we need to find what the benchmark numbers are, or the benchmark fractions for 3/8 and 4/5. Let's start with 3/8. We're going to draw a number line and divide it into eighths, starting with 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When you're dividing your number line, make sure that you have all the numbers that you need on here. And make sure that you label each part. And we have 8/8, which is equal to 1 whole. So now we can show our benchmark numbers. We have the benchmark 0 and the benchmark 1. But where is the benchmark 1/2? That's where you have to determine what is 1/2 of 8, which is our denominator. 1/2 of 8, as we know, is 4. Because 8 is an even number, it's easy to find 1/2. So we put our 1/2 at 4/8. Now we go back and look at our number that we have in our problem, and the number is 3/8. So we draw a dot here. This is 3/8. And we need to determine, is 3/8 closer to the benchmark of 0 or the benchmark of 1/2? And it is clearly closer to 1/2. So we will say that 3/8 is approximately 1/2. And we write that 3/8 is approximately, with a squiggly line, 1/2, because it's not equal to. Now we'll do the same for 4/5. Now that we know that 3/8 is approximately 1/2. We draw a number line for 4/5, starting with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, whoops, that's not 1/2, 1/5. Now we have to determine what is 1/2 of 5. Well, that's a little bit more difficult to determine than 1/2 of 8. So the easiest way to do it, because we could say 1/2 of 5 and divide 5 by 2. And 5 divided by 2 is going to give us 2.5. But we can also think of it this way. 1/2 of an odd number, any odd number, you find the even number that is right before it. So the even number before 5 is 4, and 1/2 of 4 is 2, so 1/2 of 5 is going to be 2.5. You add a half to the even number before it, the half of the even number before it. Now if that's not confusing, I don't know what is. Sorry. Okay, so hopefully you'll get this. Actually, I think you will. It's really not that difficult. Alright, so half of 5 is 2.5. So we label that right here, 2.5. So this is 1/2 of this number line. This is 1 whole, and this is 0. Now let's find the fraction we're looking for, which is 4/5. 4/5 is between 1/2 and 1 whole. So is it closer to 1/2 or 1 whole? It is 1.5 spaces away from 1/2 and only 1 space away from 1 whole. So 4/5 is approximately 1 whole. Now that we know that 3/8 is approximately 1/2 and 4/5 is approximately 1 whole, we can add these two numbers together. 1/2 plus 1 whole is 1.5 miles. So Erica and her dad walked approximately 1.5 miles on their hike. It's always good to have a few tricks up your sleeve, so it's good to look at fractions that round to 1. What do you notice about the numerators and the denominators of the fractions that round to 1? They're very close together. 11 is only 1 space away from 12, 8 and 9, 7 and 8, and 8 and 10. And so when you put these numbers on a number line, you're going to see that they're very close to the 1 whole. So if the numerator is 1 or 2 spaces away from the denominator, then you can pretty much bet it's going to round to 1. Now for a little bit quicker way to round fractions. We're still going to use a number line, but this time instead of labeling according to the denominator, we're going to label with our benchmark numbers. Okay, so we'll have 0, 1/2, and 1 whole. Our 1 whole in this number line is going to be 10. Our 1/2 is going to be whatever half of 10 is. And we know that 5 is half of 10. So now we look at our denominator, which is 7, and we have to determine where 7 would go on this number line. 7 is going to be between 5 and 10. 7 is actually going to be 2 spaces away from 5. So we label 7/10 here. And we're going to count 7 is 2 spaces away from 5, but it is 1, 2, 3 spaces away from 10. So it is safe to say that 7/10 is approximately 1/2, because it is closer to 1/2 than it is to 1 whole. Okay, let's do the same for the other two. We have 5/12. Draw our number line. 0, 1/2, 1 whole, with our whole being 12. Half of 12 is 6, so we label the 6 here. And we have 5 as our numerator. 5 is 1 before 6 is between half and 0. So it would be here, and it would be 1 space away from 1/2. Although it is 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 5 spaces away from 0. So it would be equal to 1/2 as well, or approximately equal. Now 2/7, let's try this one, 2/7. The problem with 2/7 is that we have to find 1/2 of 7. And finding 1/2 of a whole number is a little bit more difficult than finding 1/2 of a even number. I'm sorry, 1/2 of an odd number. Remember I told you earlier in the lesson that finding 1/2 of an odd number, you simply think of the even number before it, which is 6. 1/2 of 6 is 3. So we would add 1/2 to 3, and that would be 1/2 of 7. So 1/2 of 7 is 3 and a half. Our numerator is 2. So 2 is between 1/2 and 0. So we would label 2 here. 2/7. 2/7 is going to be 1 whole, which would be to 3, and a half away from 1/2. 2/7 is 1 2 spaces away from 0. So 1 2/7 is going to be approximately 1/2 as well. Now let's use what we've learned to estimate sums and differences. 1/9 plus 5/6. Using our quick method, we're going to draw a number line for 0 with 0, 1/2, and 1 whole. 1/2 of 9, we're going to think about 8, and 1/2 of 8 is 4. So 1/2 of 9 is going to be 4 and a half. So our 1/2 is going to be 4 and 1/2. Our whole is 9. So we are going to find 1. 1 will be right there. So 1 is much closer to 0 than it is to half or whole. So 1/9 is approximately equal to 0. 5/6, we'll draw another quick number line. 0, 1/2, 1 whole. Half of 6 is 3. So we put 3 at our 1/2, and 6 is going to be our 1 whole. 5/6 would be here, and 5/6 is closer to 1 whole, is closer to 6. So 5/6 is approximately 1. So now we have 0 plus 1, which is equal to 1. So 1/9 plus 5/6 is approximately 1 whole. Let's look at 3/8 minus 1/5. 3/8, we draw our little number line. 0, 1/2, 1 whole. Half of 8 is 4. 3/8 will be right before 4, so it takes 1 space to get from 3 to 4, so it's going to be approximately 1/2. Then for 1/5, we draw our number line again. 0, 1/2, and 1 whole. Half of 5, we're going to think about 4. Half of 4 is 2, so half of 5 is 2 and 1/2. So half of 5 is 2 and a half. Oops, 2 and 1/2. Our numerator is 1. 1 is 1 space away from 0, but it is 1, 2 and a half spaces away from 1/2, which would be 2 and a half. So 1/5 is approximately 0. So 1/2 minus 0 is 1/2. So this answer would be more than 0, but less than 1/2. Time to see what you can do. Pause the video, write these fractions down. For the first 3, I need you to round them to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole. And for the second 2, you need to estimate the sum or the difference. Come back and I'll show you the answers. Okay, since half of 7 is 3 and a half, 4 is very close to that. So you should have gotten 4/7 is approximately 1/2. 2/9, half of 9 is 4 and a half, 4 and a half, and 2 is closer to 0 than it is to 4 and a half. So 2/9 is approximately 0. 6/7, as you can see and recognize from the earlier lesson, 7 is very close to 6. 6 is very close to 7. So 6/7 rounds to 1 whole. And here we are again. 6/7 rounds to 1 whole. 3/5 is going to round to 3 1/2 is half of 5. So 3/5 is going to round to 1/2. So here we have 1 whole plus 1/2, and the answer is 1 1/2. 7/9 is approximately 1 whole, and 2/6 is approximately 1/2. So here we have 1 whole minus 1/2, and that is 1/2. Hope you got it right. All right, I hope this lesson wasn't too difficult for you. If you have any questions about any parts of it, go back and look at it again. And tomorrow we will go over the lesson and your whisk and be prepared for an exit ticket using rounding fractions tomorrow. All right, so see you then. Bye.